Hello tanks and tankettes, and welcome to a view replay, this time courtesy of Danzig here, who is playing on the NA server. And with a name like that, I'm pretty sure I would remember if I'd featured any of their games before. The tank, likewise, may be the first time I've featured it, but I'm less certain about that. Mostly because, well, I've been too lazy to go and specifically look it up, but also there are a fair few Soviet medium tanks at the higher tiers. It's not so bad at tier 9 when there's only 3 of them to keep track of, but there's definitely more than that at tier 10. So in this case it is the Object 430, and it's a map on which the major weakness of this tank really doesn't particularly matter. That is the gun depression. If you've got a tank with poor gun depression, Ensk is a very good map for you because it just doesn't matter. Even the bumpier bits of terrain over on the other side are really not so bumpy that you can make use of the limited cover that's available. Now this is one I had to go and look up the stats for. I really don't know much about it because I haven't played any of these tanks at the higher tiers. Not a lot of the medium ones anyway, and from what I found it seems like the DPM is very respectable, the armour is mostly respectable, the frontal armour is not so good, but it does have a very interesting feature of the side armour, which is why he was trying to side scrape even over the initial position he was at. It's got a kind of shelf that comes out that slopes rather sharply inwards in a way that I can't help but think of as being shoulder pads, essentially. It's not quite the pure V hull shape of the T22 medium, but it does mean that if you're side scraping and it hits that that sloped armour, it's going to bounce unless it's basically a 183 or the Jaegeru. In fact, I'm not even sure the Jaegeru's gun is big enough to overmatch. I can't remember offhand. So yeah, very, very bouncy, but if you are showing a bit too much frontal armour, as I think he was when he was trying to initially side scrape, then it'll just go through the front instead, and I think that is in fact where it did do so. So the enemy team, it seems like, largely charged up the other flank. There were a couple of tanks that came along the southern line here, including some nasty ones that it's nice to take out of the equation, but it does mean there is a big mass of tanks coming round now from the north that they are going to have to deal with sooner rather than later. But they're almost done with this surviving FV, so now that's out of the way, they can basically turn around, position themselves and meet the oncoming onslaught. They're even in a reasonably decent position for doing so. They've actually got more tanks left alive than the enemy team, although they are going to lose that 704 and they're probably going to lose the T30 as well, who isn't going to last all that long. They're not especially armoured, at least not in the hull. So this initially seems like a pretty good position to be going into meeting the enemy team. Danzig himself has already racked up a bit of damage, which is you know, 1600s, almost 1700s, not bad. There's certainly plenty of opportunity to do more. And I think at the moment he's probably just thinking about getting a bit more damage in, because surely his team will have not any tremendous amount of difficulty dealing with what the enemy team has left. But I probably wouldn't be showing you this replay if that were the case now, would I? So with the Emiel possibly coming round here, yep, looks like they're coming to this corner. He's adopted a slightly more cautious position, although he can still get a hit in. There we go, if the Emiel comes where he thinks he's going to pop up. He also knows that Emiel has probably only got a partial clip remaining, having fired at him twice, though only one of them actually penned, fortunately. And unless he's reloading, well, I mean, if he was reloading, he probably wouldn't be being this aggressive. Although sometimes you can fake out and get people to think that you are, that you still have shells in your clip while you are in fact reloading. So he takes another chunk of health off the Emiel, and then lets the WZ go in to finish them off. But while all this has been happening, there's been a bit of a massacre occurring. It's not been entirely one-sided. Significant numbers of the enemy team are now dead themselves, and the ones that are surviving have taken damage. But having gone into this with superior numbers of tanks, they're now distinctly on the losing end of things. So again, he tried to side scrape, and again I think that must have gone through the front, although I'm not 100% certain about that. It's always like if you're angling out a bit too far, it might just pen through the flatter lower part of your side armour, so I guess you have to be a bit careful when you're side scraping with this thing. You've still got enough hit points to work with though, and this is also reached the stage of being one of those games where you're glad to be in a medium tank at this stage, because the mobility is going to come in very, very useful. Medium tank might have the armour, it might have the firepower, but chances are it just won't have the oomph to get around the map. Although having said that, the one surviving member of his team, the WZ, does. It is a very speedy machine for a heavy tank. It's not going to be as fast as this, of course, especially not with the superior terrain resistances that this tank appears to get, at least according to my little delve on Tanks GG. But good enough to keep up. It's not like he's got a mouse or something lumbering like that as his sole surviving companion. So with that Object 260 getting taken out, it's just the Guerrilla and enemy artillery left. So that's the good news. It's 2 versus 2, and they have the armour advantage, and well, they're going to have things like the spotting advantage as well. They are, however, not in a great position in terms of health. I don't think either of them can afford to take a hit. If it's the big gun, then the Guerrilla could potentially one-shot either of them. I've just realised that I've pronounced either as either and either is either. Same word, but you know, I just like to spice things up a bit and confuse everybody, yes. So he's got to be cautious because he doesn't want to just get blapped, and artillery could make life very nasty as well. And artillery these days, it is almost more dangerous at the end of the match, and I'm pretty sure I've gone over this thought in my head at some previous date as well. But yeah, the damage curve of artillery is such that it doesn't do those big one-shots anymore, but when you're low health at the end of the match, when it's starting to get a bit critical in terms of remaining hit points and there only being a few tanks left, then yeah, the ability of artillery to more reliably splash people is a bigger threat, and you really can't take too many more of those. So there's a bit of repositioning. They did do a bit of coordination in the chat. Now getting spotted there, of course, means that there's a very good chance that that Guerrilla is in the southeast corner, because that's the one area of significant bush cover. And just pushing into that would be a bit suicidal. Maybe one of them could try and take the hit, and the other could then fire at the Guerrilla being spotted. But of course, with artillery in play as well, you're basically hoping to beat the Guerrilla's reload and hope that artillery doesn't just nail you. And that's a very real concern for Danzig at the moment. If artillery hits him full on, it could well kill him. So first, he establishes that the Guerrilla isn't in fact in this corner instead. And maybe it's a bit overly cautious, but there is sufficient time, and he is in a sufficiently mobile tank that it does count as, I guess, time well spent, because he's definitely confirmed that that Guerrilla is going to be down in that corner, which I highly suspect was his initial suspicion to begin with. So he's moved up with the WZ sticking a bit closer to the buildings, and Danzig moving over to the more open area to make use of bushes. He may be able to outspot the Guerrilla, but the Guerrilla is quite possibly just sat in bushes themselves. Well, they will be sat in bushes themselves with binoculars at a guess, and even if they don't, they're going to have a good chance of seeing somebody moving through the open first. And clearly the WZ did get spotted, because they took a big old hit from artillery, which leaves them now in a very vulnerable position as well. So Danzig very cautiously moving up, using the terrain where he can, spots the Guerrilla, and there's the turret armour coming into play. And he knows the artillery's got a little bit left on the reload, but they must be nearly reloaded by now, so puts the hit into them when they get spotted, backs off just in time, and is going to be able to kill the artillery, which just leaves the Griller. That was a premium HE shell as well, so an even bigger splash radius. The Griller at this point, 2 versus 1, they've lost their best chance of this going in their favour, which was these 2 remaining tanks blundering in unawares. But no, they played it smart, they worked together, there was a bit of crucial teamwork there, and between the 2 of them they were able to bring this home. So that was a fairly well-deserved ace tanker after a performance like that. 6,574 damage done with a little sprinkling of assistance on top. And alongside that, he also got a Leverschleichhose medal, which is for killing 2 tanks. In this case, what is it? 2 tanks or tank destroyers with a medium tank, and they have to be 1 tier higher than you. Of course, it was a tier 10 game, so that accounts for that. And also a Belot's medal, which you don't see very often. I'll read out the text on this one. Destroy at least 2 enemy vehicles while having 5 different modules damaged or crew members injured and losing 80% of your hit points. So in other words, you have to take a really thorough battering, but come through the other side with some kills and a victory. And that's not that easy to pull off most of the time, but Danzig managed to do so, and in a pretty good style. Arguably he could have taken a little less damage along the way, but then maybe he wouldn't have gotten that Belot's medal, so who knows. The actual damage result was enough to put him easily at the top of the team. In fact, he nearly had double the amount of XP of the next best player, the FV 4005. The WZ did reasonably well for themselves as well, with, well, just about 1,200, but they got 4 kills, which probably accounts for most of that, and 3rd place. But the rest of the team did enough damage between them that it was able to come down to that 2 versus 2 situation, at which point all Danzig and the WZ, Viking 28, had to do was apply a bit of brain power to win, and that's exactly what they did. So hopefully you enjoyed this replay, and if you did, you can do all the usual things down underneath it. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.